All right, good morning, everyone. My name is Phil Gallagher. I run Thraben University, a site for legacy death and taxes. And today we're going to be playing 5-color humans. So this is a deck that I've streamed a couple of times already, so I'm not going to go into too much detail with the deck tech. But just for anyone who hasn't seen this deck before, conceptually it's very similar to the modern humans list. You have a number of disruptive elements and a number of very aggressive elements that come off of Aether Vial. So for disruptive elements on 2, we have Thalia, Kitesail Freebooter, and Meddling Mage to kind of mess with what our opponent is doing. We have Mom and Noble Hierarch to accelerate or protect our threats. Champion of the Parish and Thalia's Lieutenant are sort of the aggressive side of the deck. And then up here we have some toolbox options. Recruiter Tutors for the right cards at the right time, Reflector Mage, and Orzhov Pontiff and Palace Jailer are pseudo-removal spells. Most of the sideboard here is similar to what I've run in the past. We're trying a few non-human cards today. We're trying Knight of Autumn for its just relative power level. It's an extremely strong card. Some people have tried Reclamation Sage in this slot before because it's a little bit easier to cast, but Knight of Autumn is more flexible. It can just enter as a 4/3 when you don't actually need to destroy an artifact or an enchantment, and gaining 4 life does matter sometimes. Also of note, I'm trying out this Venser Shaper Savant, because apparently Venser plus Caracas and Vial is good. Who'da thunk? So Bentley, this is Legacy 5-color humans. And I'm just going to jump right into things today, because I want to play a whole bunch of leagues today. So for anyone who didn't catch last night's stream, I got off of school because of flooding, so I'm probably going to stream like 2 leagues today. I'm not going to have to work today. Monday might even be questionable. It's hard to tell. I haven't left my house since I got home yesterday at like 2 or something like that. Yeah, I saw Tanglewood Mall. The videos are absolutely ridiculous. So essentially, the entire mall parking lot was underwater. I got some minor flooding in the basement, but nothing that's going to cause any like real long-term damage. Meddling Mage is awesome in this format. So the last time I played against this player, they won despite making horrible play decisions and despite F6ing through their first turn. Please play Chalice on 1. Joke's on you, sucker. I really hope my opponent isn't Red Prison, though. Okay, great. Red Prison would be about the hardest of... What the fuck are you doing? Alright. Well, I don't exactly know what to Meddling Mage. I'm going to try to Google what the hell my opponent is on. It might be like Days Undoing Affinity or something. Yeah, so I'm trying to figure out, like, do I just, like, wasteland my opponent this turn and try to get a little bit more information? Or do I just, like, Meddling Mage one of the powerful artifact cards, like Antiquities War, blind? Is it the Antiquities War? Yeah. Yeah, Static Grip, that's the same conclusion I came to. Like, next turn, play Lieutenant, put a counter on each one of those, wasteland my opponent, and just try to stay aggressive. I don't really know for sure, but the best names with this were probably, like, Antiquity Wars and Karn. Okay. Yeah, this does look like the sort of deck list that Harley would enjoy. Okay. So that was a thing. So I'm going to assume that I want Knight of Autumn. And probably this Recruiter. Maybe this. Maybe these. Yeah, Teague might be good. So I probably don't want Reflector Mage or Pontiff. It's possible my opponent plays Mentor in this deck. But until I know that for sure, I don't think I want to board for it. I don't know if I'm supposed to play this card until I know what I should be naming. Like, I could play that and put it on 0 and stop a bunch of the 0-cost artifacts that they're going to play. What if they're like a paradoxical outcome deck? That's a thing too, right? We won game one. My opponent conceded very quickly. Let's try something like this. Again, not 100% sure about my boarding here. Yeah, this hand's very good. Note, I will probably lead on Ether Vial, since my opponent showed me the Days Undoing, so that if my opponent Days Undoings on their turn 2, I can go and just, like, have the ability to put something into play easier. Yeah, Vial is usually the turn 1 play with this deck, even if you have other 1-drops, but there are some times where, depending on the rest of your hand and what your role in the matchup is, you are just supposed to, like, jam a different 1-drop on turn 1. Yeah, it's one of those situations where, like, 95% of the time, Vial is better, but in the 5% of the time where Vial isn't better, there's a huge difference. So Bayernita, if you scroll over the Cardboard Live extension that's on screen, you can take a look at the deck list. It's the little icon that has, like, a whatchamacallit? Like a card with a little microphone below it. Excuse me. No, like Legacy 5-color humans is a real deck now. It's actually somewhat powerful. Hey, Grace's leader. Yeah, so our opponent is essentially trying to play an artifact value deck. So they're going to have things like Antiquity Wars, Karn, and Psi Master Thopterist to try to extract maximum value out of their idiots. So Cardboard Live right now is working on an extension for mobile. That is imminent. So don't worry so much about that. I have not played any modern D&T on stream. However, it is something that I would consider doing. That's the sort of thing, if someone donates to make it happen, it's 100% happening. Yeah, I agree. Some of the moms should have gone out. Jeez. So I don't get infinite id for one. I probably need to put this in now. Yes, my opponent's hand was extremely strong this game. I don't think my opponent should have let me jump to this turn with this. But I accept that. Let me go ahead and tick this up to 3. I'm going to use my Horizon Canopy to try to get a redraw. And I can still cast a 2-drop, but not a 3-drop afterwards. Alright, playing Thalia doesn't do a lot. I'm going to try to get another redraw. Like, it just turns this into a 7/7. I play almost no Modern currently. I used to play some D&T in Modern, but now I'm playing almost exclusively Legacy. Ugh. This is probably the point where I'm dead. But I can still play towards my opponent messing up. Yeah, Death and Taxes is probably one of the best 3 or 4 decks in Legacy right now. So essentially, I have to chump block both constructs this turn. If either construct hits, I die. So if my opponent just Walking Ballista -2s, or okay, I guess this is a little bit weird because like taking a ballista off the board changes the size of the constructs. A lot of people play Miracles because it is an extremely consistent blue deck that lets you leverage your format knowledge. So both of those blocks are obligatory on my end. And now, unfortunately, I think my opponent still has a Psy. So my opponent can cast Psy and cast the Lotus Petal in order to get one blocker and chump. Like, I can bounce the Psy. Okay. So all I need to do is get that token out of the way, and I win. So I think I tick up to 4 to turn on my Venser. Or we can just draw blanks. Alright, so now I know I want these moms out. I guess I can play like 1 Pontiff and 1 Reflector Mage for Psy tokens and Karn tokens, respectively. Hey, Arkin. Congrats on partner. And I probably just bring the Thalia's lieutenants back in to stay aggressive. Alright. This hand's pretty sweet. So note, Knight of Autumn isn't a human, but I have Horizon Canopy and Ancient Ziggurat. So it's not a big deal that it's not a human. I can still name both of these on human, but I'll be putting... I can't play Unclaimed Territory into Unclaimed Territory into Knight. So I have to play one of the Unclaimed Territories on a later turn. Yeah, so Venser would have been a real hot draw. Alright, my opponent has mulligan. I'm gonna lead on Ancient Ziggurat here, because if my opponent just randomly, like, Days Undoings on turn 1, I want to have something in play that can tap for any of my creatures. I'm still waiting, Arkin. So the Antiquities War deck is like wildly inconsistent. So my opponent has had some awesome starts on their side of the battlefield, but there's a lot of times where this deck just doesn't do anything. Yep, it's another pretty nutty hand. Well, I guess I'm blowing up a construct so I don't lose to aggression. But it doesn't feel great. You can have the Ancient Tomb. Giving the opponent mana might not sound like a good idea on paper since I have this Thalia here, but their life total is going to be in some degree of jeopardy if they just keep tapping these Ancient Tombs. And with my Thalia's Lieutenant, I'll be able to get past this Karn, or, like, get past this wall of blockers in a turn or so. That's pretty annoying. I felt like we could have beaten anything my opponent did this game, except for that turn 1 Karn. Like, turn 1 Antiquity Wars would have been fine, because I could have just Knight of Autumn that, I believe. Stars on the play there, yeah. So I could have just Knight of Autumn that. And, like, it's fine, but it's just a little frustrating because my hands were pretty good against that deck, especially in game 3 there. So my opponent had to have Soul Land plus Grim Monolith plus Mox or Petal and Karn after a mulligan in order to do that. So there have been a handful of legacy decks using Psi. Our hand's pretty good here. Like, we have Mom into any number of 2-drops for different reasons. We're a little soft to a Wasteland, but that's kind of often the case with this deck. Alright, we're playing against Reanimator. Jeez. Opponent's gonna go Hellbent in order to do this exactly. Holy shit. Holy shit! The punt, though. Like, it might not matter because they're still getting 14 cards, but this is, like, hella loose. It's fine. They have their third Lotus Petal to start things off again, so they don't get punished for it. So Exhume returns both Grizzlebrand and Reflector Mage to play. Then Reflector Mage has a trigger that goes on the stack. Because Grizzlebrand is already in play, I'm allowed to bounce Grizzlebrand. Yeah, my opponent punted this game away, but it looks like it's not going to matter. Yes, it was really, really bad. So I wonder if I'm supposed to attack with this Reflector Mage here, so that if my opponent exhumes, I can bounce the creature. Is that crazy? Because that doesn't seem crazy to me. Because I can't beat a Grizzlebrand right now, and I can't beat a second Chancellor, but I can probably beat one. Yeah, my opponent has double Exhume in hand. I think I'm supposed to attack. Come on, Caracas one-time dealer. Alright, I don't think I can beat this Ashen Rider coming down. Note, I think my opponent is supposed to just attack with both creatures there. If I'm at 10 and I play like Athalia's Lieutenant, somehow I still can't push lethal damage. And putting me to 2 would mean that if I have a second Horizon Canopy, I can't tap it. And like, one creature can attack through one blocker anyway, safely with Mom. Alright. So I want Surgicals, Priest, Jailer, Venser, Recruiter, Fairy, probably Prelate. Knight of Autumn is a consideration to destroy Animate Dead, but I'm already boarding in a lot of cards, so I might not go that deep. I don't want Pontiff. I will trim some to all of the Thalia's lieutenants. And then maybe the champions. This leaves me a little bit less aggressive than I would like to be. And maybe there's even an argument for like not playing Mom and instead just playing the champions to stay aggressive. Because about the only scenario where Mom is good is where my opponent reanimates one flying creature and I have Kitesail Freebooter to protect. Because my opponent's likely to play no spot removal other than like the random Ashen Rider. So I could see that. I think on the play, I'll stay more aggressive, and on the draw, I'll play the Moms. I don't think this one's good enough. So I have Fairy, Surgical, Containment Priest to go towards. I can answer a Grizzlebrand. I have 2/2-drop disruptive pieces. This is fine, but not impressive. That'll go to the bottom. Alright, opponent has a Chancellor. No, I'm not going to show the cavern on turn 1, so my opponent doesn't know what's coming. Like, they might think they have more time than they do. Yeah, JD, I'm off of work today. There are some people right here now taking a look at the basement, trying to figure out, what we need to get the sub pump going again. Oh man, if my opponent is getting Badlands, that probably means they're just going off this turn. Black-red Reanimator is better, not close. Okay, so let's take a look at what they told me with that fetch. That fetch told me that they don't care about the Wasteland, otherwise they could have... Or no, I guess if they have looting, they couldn't have. Alright, maybe my opponent doesn't realize that I can just, like, go through the Chancellor trigger with this, and that they're safe. It's possible I get punished for not wastelanding them. Alright, so we win this one. I would not recommend playing slivers at a big event that you care about. Unless you really know what you're doing. And I don't think most people really know what they're doing with slivers. I did. Video's up on YouTube. Alright. So we're going to put this on 2. 2 stops animate dead as well as exhume, whereas 1 just stops reanimate and like the looting and discard spells. Oh man, Reflector Mage is an insane draw. It's just Thraben University on YouTube. Safali, the exact text of it is below the stream. I want to say it's add quote. Yeah, so it's add quote, not quote. That's insane, too. How many creatures does my opponent have in graveyard? Just 2. just 2 in graveyard means that I can Imperial Recruiter for a fairy and have that as a safety net. Okay, well, we just did that at the same time, so it's quote 4 and 5, so that'll show up sometimes when we need it. And with Surgical Extraction. Keep. Awkwardly, if my opponent reveals a Chancellor, Ancient Ziggurat doesn't actually pay for the Chancellor tax. Our opponent is on Black-Red Reanimator. And they have the Unmasked for my Surgical. I would be a little upset if my opponent turn 1s us with permission on a Mulda 6. With the literal perfect 6-card hand to do so, after looting. That's so frustrating. Like, I'm certainly not dead yet, but life's rough. So like if I can just keep hitting land drops, I'll win this one. So I'm taking a second to think whether or not it's better for me to Thalia or Containment Priest, and I think the answer is Thalia because it protects me from discard spells, unless my opponent gets another land. Yeah, Cavern's super cute here. Frickin' A. Now I'm probably dead. I can draw a Kitesail Freebooter to chump, but that doesn't really get me anywhere. Alright. So, what am I doing? So the world where I win is probably the world where my opponent thought seizes and I draw a freebooter into freebooter. Alright, that one was frustrating. Yeah, the theoretical line was just draw Kitesail freebooters for the rest of the game. That was it. Yeah, very unlikely. Also unlikely was my opponent mulling to 6 and turn 1ing me through surgical, but it happened. Yeah. So a lot of people were giving me heck, going like, "Hey Phil, why do you think you can drop your graveyard hate and like play all those chalices in your sideboard?" It's games like that against Black Red Reanimator that like show you a lot of times your graveyard hate doesn't even matter, and that's kind of why I'm okay with giving up some percentage points in that matchup to make everything else better. No, my opponents have had incredibly powerful hands that went off on turn 1 before I could play any of my turn 2 disruptive elements just about every game. This hand's not impressive, but fine. I think my opponent plays Blue-Red Delver. Time walk successful. Yeah, the chalices are really good. I'm very sure of that at this point. So I get to play Freebooter here. I'll get to see my opponent's hand, and then Meddling Mage can shut off something on the following turn if I'm ready for that to happen. And my opponent just concedes. So just to talk about something before I start sideboarding, I'm pretty sure my opponent plays blue-red Delver. So I'm going to board 4 Delver. So essentially, I want more removal spells if I can. So I guess that means Palace Jailer's fine. Pontiff isn't really great. I guess Dismember is okay. That seems really awkward versus blue-red Delver, though, in particular. I guess we can put this on 1 and Mize my opponent pretty good. Yeah, I don't really know that I board a lot of cards versus Delver. Blue-red Delver, that is. Like, I don't really like my Pontiff. It'll kill Grim Lavamancer or Unflipped Delver, but not anything like Goblin Guide or Swift Spear or even something like Eidolon if my opponent was playing that. Oh, never mind. I have the luxury of being able to pull up my opponent's deck list. So they're Young Pyromancer, Grim Lavamancers, Delvers, and Snapcasters as their threats. So I do actually want both Pontiffs. That's some great information right there. Hey, Julian. So we'll probably trim a couple of lieutenants. The second Palace Jailer might be a bit ambitious if my opponent is a Young Pyromancer deck and they can try to go wide of me relatively easily. Let's run this. This is a little land heavy for my liking. I don't have a lot to do. I can double Wasteland, but if my opponent just gets under me, this game goes very poorly, so I think I'm going to ship this one. This is a much more balanced hand. Still feels a little soft, but this one's probably good enough. Like Mom into Freebooter, into Meddling Mage, or something like that. It has a lot of potential. So while my opponent takes forever on this turn 1 Ponder, what should I play this afternoon? I'm pretty likely to stream again after I eat lunch and work out. Open to suggestions. I'm actually pretty happy to see this Dazed here. Spell Snare. Spicy. I'm fine with these 1-for-1 trades while my opponent doesn't have any clock in play. My best draw would probably be Cavern of Souls, so I can just put this on 1. Static Rift. I was thinking about making High Tide one of my next set of donation goals. If I just play this freebooter, I think there's a very high chance that it will just die because my opponent has multiple removal spells. This might just be a turn to stick an Ether Vial and assume that I'm going to go onto the defensive for a little while. Awkwardly, this card can get dazed here. Hello, hello. Yeah, Cavern is the best possible draw right now. Like putting Sanctum Prelate on 1, followed by 1 on 2 to shut off something like a Braid would be just disgusting. We've had a rough morning, Eddie. We've gotten turn 1 a whole bunch of times effectively. Oh. Well, this is interesting. I have basically no idea why my opponent didn't just wasteland me and slam that Winter Orb. Maybe they can't play. Maybe they can't play the Winter Orb in the face of my Aether Vial. You know, I think I'm actually in pretty good shape here. I think I take the Fork Bolt and then put my first Prelate on 2, given the opportunity. Like, this leaves me with 2 different threats that can't be killed right now. All right, so I took Fork Bolt. Fork Bolt is a sorcery. So that's why I couldn't just pick off something. This is interesting. So right now, this young Pyromancer sucks. But if my opponent, like, fires off a chain of cantrips, it becomes very good against the Champion of the Parish. So it might just be correct to take this trade here. I think I'm the control deck in this game because of both of my Sanctum prelates. So keeping that in mind, I'm going to go ahead and take this block. I don't think my opponent expected me to block. So they probably just like fire off this Price of Progress to get a elemental token. Neat. So next turn, this is going to go on 1. Because I can just Meddling Mage the Winter Orb this turn, I guess. Folly, thank you very much for your continued support. So my opponent has 2 Abrades and 1 Smash to Smithereens in their deck. It's possible that the way I lose this game is to an Abrade on my Vial. So keeping that in mind, I'm going to put this on Abrade. I don't think I care about that Winter Orb since I only have 1 land. Yeah, if my opponent finds their one of Smash to Smithereens, I'm in super big trouble. But otherwise, this one feels very good. That was a shuffle. All right, Young Pyromancer. That's not that big of a deal. I mean, I accept this value you're giving me. So the reason my opponent probably made that block is because they do have like some 1-drop red removal spell, which I just destroyed. And we've bullied our opponent. Moving on. I mean, we need to bully 2 more opponents to break even here. This morning was kind of rough. I'm going to keep this hand. It's a little action light, which I don't love. My opponent's mulligan to 5, so we're probably playing against Black-Red Reanimator, and my opponent's going to turn 1 me. No play. God damn it. Yeah, so my monitors are extremely thin, so I actually can't put a webcam on top of my monitor. So it has to go below, which makes me put it at some weird angles. Alright, let's draw Caracas, please. Oh, I see, I see. Yep, okay. Oh, I see. Yeah, you're right, actually. I didn't fix this on all of my things. So, how's that? Yeah, so I forgot to switch my chat back after Nick's thing. So now it needs to be a little bit bigger than that. Like 590. How does that look? If my opponent draws 7 and can't produce another creature, I'm actually in good shape. Chancellor will be very annoying. Actually, no, it won't. Ah, your unmasked does nothing. I have caverns to ignore this somewhat. And I really hope they get this whole Aether Vial thing fixed where it doesn't go onto the stack automatically. Hot damn. I guess technically I should have done that during my opponent's end step for that exact situation. Okay. So, what is the plan? I can take 2 hits from the Chancellor. Well, I would need a freebooter in order to make that work. So I can't, this thing flies. So I can't block it yet. So I can protect Thalia, hit in for 9. During my opponent's attack step, I vial in Reflector Mage and bounce out the Grizzlebrand. And then I have a ton of live draws. Yeah, winning game 1 against Black-Red would be huge. I've been playing with less Graveyard Hate because Black-Red Reanimator is 4% of the metagame right now. And even when you have the Graveyard Hate, it doesn't matter a lot of times because they still just like use a discard spell, get it out of the way, and kill you. So I think it's correct to like, well, all right. So I should say from the perspective of D&T, it's probably correct to ignore the Black-Red Reanimator matchup to make everything else better. So the worst part here is that even if I always no to these, it doesn't matter, and I still have to manually click to put them on the stack. Yeah, so if I attack with all these, I put my opponent to 5, and that puts them in the situation where they have to attack or they die. Alright. So, Venser, Jailer, Recruiter, Fairy, Prelate, Surgical, Priest. Again, would consider Knight of Autumn for Animate Dead, but it's a little loose. So I think I went Pontiffs out, Lieutenants out. When I was on the play, I kept my champions. When I was on the draw, I played Moms. Boy, this hand's awkward. So if I get discard spelled for Containment Priest, then I want to lead on Vile. If I don't, then I want to lead on Champion. Well, we're just getting turn 1 again. I mean, at least I have Caracas. And I don't know if it's correct for my opponent to Grizzlebrand in the face of my Caracas. But it doesn't matter when they draw hot. When I am testing for something, yes, I track data very religiously. Alright. What are you doing, opponent? Like, this is just another legendary creature. Do you have, like, fucking Pithing Needle, too? Because that'd be a little tilting. So, like, I guess we just do it. Yeah, this is probably about the best case scenario for me. So I don't even think I bounce this Elesh Norn yet. If my opponent attacks me, I think I will just take 4. Maybe that's not true. Yeah. So opponent didn't have the fucking Pithing Needle last turn, but they drew it this turn. It's fucking annoying. So my opponent just produces a Grizzlebrand here. This Grizzlebrand alone is not going to be good enough. Okay, this is acceptable. Recruiter can get an answer to Grizzlebrand. I'll probably die before then, but like I at least have a chance. Note, I know my opponent has a Leshnorn in the graveyard, but I need to play this Thalia out to try to keep them from doing multiple things with the cards they can draw with Grizzlebrand. So, like, I know this can give my opponent a 2-for-1, but I don't really have a choice. Like, I can't put Containment Priest into play or it shuts off my own Vial. Yep. Alright. Now I think I'm on no outs. Yep. Hey, Safali, I just see. I didn't have my email open. I just saw your message now. Yes, after lunch today, we will do some D&T then, and I will add that to my queue. So let's update this. Oh, what on earth did I do? All right, so that's updated. So let's go to the donation queue. All right. Sorry, Jack, give me 1 second. All right, so looking at the donation queue here, so we just hit the one to allow us to do 4-color loan, so that'll happen sometime soon, and we got a donation for D&T. These are the other things that I've got queued up here. So let me switch over to this screen. So I've got next week queued up. So what is that? Wednesday the 24th? Does that sound right? Yeah, Wednesday the 24th we'll probably do the Loam stream. Although if I have some time over the weekend, I might end up just continuously playing leagues. It's also very possible that I don't end up working Monday either. Static Ripped, to be completely honest, I haven't had a ton of time to, like, think about that sort of thing. I will do merchandise. Like, definitive statement, it will happen. Um, it's one of those things where, like, juggling the job plus regular social life stuff plus stream plus website is a little bit tricky. So I haven't put any research whatsoever into doing any merchandise yet. Yeah, regular social life stuff, like going to Greensboro to play video games. You know, things like that. All right, I'm dead in this league, but this league has been a shit show. I want to see if we can at least, like, 2-3 this and redeem humans. I mean, it has been, right? Like, everything that can go wrong has gone wrong. If my opponent plays Badlands and pass, I'm just conceding, though. All right. So the question is, do I just play out this game fairly, or do I try to mise a win here with a Wasteland on this Watery Grave? Like, so right now I have a curve of Mom into Thalia, both uncounterable, into eventual Palace Jailer. Oh, I'm sorry. Whoop. Okay. So, opponent went Polluted Delta, Watery Grave, Thoughtseize, taking my Ether Vial. So my choices are just, like, Wasteland this, try to, like, get a free one, or play out the game fairly. So I think I'm going to start with this, just, like, limiting my opponent's ability to play the game. And, like, Mom into Thalia is still an extremely powerful line a turn down the road, maybe even more powerful because of this. Yeah, when your opponent doesn't have a threat yet, and you get to Wasteland them, it's almost always correct. So this Death Shadow right now is in no way threatening. My opponent is going to need to have a removal spell for Mom. Yeah, I would not have known Death Shadow's creature type. 100% not. Don't forget about Hallowed Spirit Keeper. Hallowed Spirit Keeper's an avatar, right? Wait, is Veteran Explorer really an avatar? Oh, I see. Human Soldier Scout. We're just talking about subtypes here. Yeah, we played Slivers last night, and they were all unemployed. No jobs for them. What are you doing? Oh, a dismember, okay. So, I'm probably just going to aggro my opponent out. My opponent is probably going to use their turn to wasteland my cavern, attack me for 7. Then I'm going to play a second cavern, play Thalia's Lieutenant, buff my Thalia, hit my opponent to 3, and then chump block with the Thalia's Lieutenant and kill my opponent. So this puts my opponent into a super shitty spot, because since they're at 1, they cannot crack this fetch land. So something like a Dismember currently isn't live. I just get to, like, chump block here, and then my opponent's dead. If my opponent has something like a Delver, that'll do it. Gurmag Angler. This is actually fine for me. So if my opponent attacks with both creatures, I just chump block and kill them. So I think I'm just supposed to name Delver, because that's one of the things they can play with the mana that they have available to them. That would mess up my combat math. No, my opponent can't push right now, because of Thalia. If they fetch, they die. So this is a super interesting situation. What am I supposed to block with? If my opponent has Delver, then I block with Thalia. Actually, no, it doesn't matter. If they have Delver, I can beat Delver with Palace Jailer. So I block with Meddling Mage, because that stops any removal spell. Literally not a life point to spare here. Alright, so what do I want? Jailer seems good. This seems fine. Dismember is probably good enough, though awkward. It's probably about it. I don't really want Pontiff. I usually trim a couple of these in just about any matchup. I guess Meddling Mage is only kind of medium, too. Meddling Mage is way better against decks that rely very heavily on a certain number of key cards, and Death Shadow Delver isn't really that. Maybe I don't even want to play these, and I just like want to keep playing Lieutenants. Like, it's awkward because it's a white 1/1 that's bad against Dread of Night, but at the same time, like, it pumps all the rest of your other critters. So it's probably fine. Lomer Boy, it is not on the schedule yet. So, like, just to flash the schedule real quick. So this is the schedule for the next couple of days. It's probably going to end up being the Wednesday after this, the 24th. But I might end up just, like, playing some more this weekend if I'm just kind of, like, stuck at home due to flooding. But since you shared your sideboard guide with me, I am going to stream Loam twice at some point, so I put it in the donation queue twice. Yeah, I do have the wrong date for Saturday. Thank you. I'm not going to fix that now. I'll get that fixed sometime. Okay. I'll do that, Lomer Boy. So this could be a game where it's correct to not play Vial on turn 1. I want to explain why. If I play Vial on turn 1, and my opponent like forces or dazes it and follows up with a Wasteland, then my Cavern gets wasted. I don't want to lead on Horizon Canopy to do that, because I'm taking unnecessary damage, and Ancient Ziggurat can't actually cast that. That might just be me playing too scared, though. Which D&T creature would win in a Battle Royale cage fight? Probably Flicker Wisp. If you looked at the art on that thing, it's got all the little, like, legs, and I don't know. It's terrifying. But at the same time, Mirran Crusader can do that, right? So there's that to consider. Yeah, so I started keeping an art folder for Magic that has a lot of, like, the posters Julian was making for the Legacy Premier League, and a lot of, like, the cool D&T memes that are running around, just so I can have those at the ready. God, that is so annoying. I'm gonna submit a complaint about that. So this is probably the turn where I try to dismember the Death Shadow while my opponent's tapped out. Because I can beat a Daze here, can't beat a Force on it. And my opponent's already cycled Street Wraith twice, so it's not very likely that that buggers me good. So in order to beat a Daze, I have to play out this land. This is awkward. So this is effectively like we're getting hit by that Death Shadow once when it's big. It's super bad if this gets forced. Like, I probably lose the game immediately. So I think my play is then Champion of the Parish this way. Then, if my opponent plays Dread of Night, I'll just put in Noble Hierarch. If my opponent doesn't play Dread of Night, I'll put in Mother of Runes. Strong. Hmm. That's problematic. So that's a shock plus a dismember. This Death Shadow is huge, and I really hope my opponent just fires off this dismember right now so my mom lives. Nope. So, like, I could have put in the Noble Hierarch here, but if I try to wait another turn to let Mom do its thing, it probably doesn't matter in this game anymore. And my opponent is noticing the awkward thing about dismembering. If they dismember, then all of a sudden Champion of the Parish becomes lethal if I do get a hit in. So they might have to dismember partially for mana here. Yeah. So with this trigger on the stack, do I vial in Noble Hierarch? What 2-drop can I draw that I would need to put in? None of them are need. And I can cast all of them anyway. Yeah, so I probably put Noble Hierarch in. likely intending to just chump block with it. Well, there are a lot of things that shouldn't be hard to comprehend that people either don't care about or don't see the value in doing. And that's probably why change is glacial on that front. Interesting spot for my opponent. So, with literally any creature, Champion of the Parish plus Noble Hierarch is lethal. As is the combination of Champion and Sanctum Prelate. So that tells me my opponent either has a follow-up creature or is trying to bluff that they do. What was that? Echoing Truth? Alright. So I don't have any double-colored 2-drops because the Meddling Mages are boarded out. But I still think I want to make this play so that I can cast something uncounterably. No. Alright, well, now I'm under the gun. That was a bad time to brick. Who will run versus Trump? I don't know. Probably someone else wildly unqualified with celebrity status. I'll leave that at 3. And whiff. There's some city in America that keeps electing a dog as their mayor. Maybe we could do that. Probably couldn't be worse than what we've got now. We're only the laughingstock of the entire world and hemorrhaging money everywhere and losing national respect and turning our allies into enemies and, you know, everything. It's like the episode of South Park where they made the Pope a rabbit. Because the rabbit says nothing. And that's how it should be. That was a good episode of South Park. That one was strong. Vince McMahon. Ugh. Jerry Thompson for president. I know nothing about Jerry's political beliefs, but seems to have his head in the right place. I'd vote for Jerry T. Yeah, I love Jerry T. Like, he was one of the Roanoke locals for a long time, and he was very welcoming me as a new player. Like, he's just an overall cool dude. Did a lot of just like spell slinging and teaching people how to play, just like hanging around the shop on like Friday nights and stuff. It was super cool. Oh man, I missed that one. I'll have to add that into my queue of things to listen to. This is the one land Aether Vial hand where I really hope my opponent doesn't have force, because this hand is bonkers if this Vial resolves. Yeah, I don't know Reed very well personally compared to how well I know Jerry. Hey, Minifer. So Aurum, this is going to be a stream that's broken off with a lunch break. So this is going to be the last round of this portion of the stream, and then I'm going to eat lunch, work out, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to play D&T with Hallowed Spirit Keeper. Nope. That's not the one I wanted. So we play champion here so that the mom is guaranteed uncounterable, and so that if my opponent plays Dread of Night, I can Vial in mom to save the champion. Ooh, Reanimate. Oh, interesting. Opponent not going for the Reanimate on the Street Wraith here. That's awesome. So I can Thalia to try to prevent my opponent from casting that Reanimate, or I can Kite Sail Freebooter and just take it. I think I'm supposed to Thalia this turn, tick Vial up, and if my opponent reanimates my Mother of Runes, I just Reflector Mage it back to my hand. Alright, looks like opponent's trying to figure out Dismember plus Thalia. Dismember works very poorly on Magic Online, by the way, just in terms of the logistics of casting it, in case you haven't had the pleasure before. It would be large. That would be incredibly mentally taxing on me. And that would require a large amount of prep work on my end, because I'd have to figure out, like, how am I going to say various things ahead of time? Like, I don't just have a whole bunch of words available for things like, what do I want to say for, library, graveyard, hand, meaning this, not this, all that sort of stuff. Okay, well, that just leaves my opponent dead. All right, so I was dead for prizes there, so I conceded to my opponent. The reason why I played out that last match was just to get some more matches in and provide content to you. But note that if I just take that win there, I'm potentially taking prizes away from my opponent at no gain to myself. The Legacy version can have Mantis Rider. I don't know that Mantis Rider is correct, though. Mantis Rider has always felt super mana intensive to me, and I don't know that it's good. Like, if you just kind of like look at the mana base as it is here, like a whole bunch of these lands wouldn't actually go and cast Mantis Riders. So you'd have to change your mana base and maybe like not play some Horizon Canopies or Karakas, both of which are pretty useful cards. So I'm not overly hot on Mantis Rider. Yep. Okay, so where do we stand on 4-color humans? We won most of our fair matches. We lost against decks that could go off on turn 1. So, like, we lost against the Antiquity Wars because, like, they just produced a turn 1 Karn, and it was like, well, oh, okay, you got that. And we lost to Black-Red Reanimator twice. You know. So be it. It is what it is. So, I'm going to take a break for probably about an hour and a half. I'm gonna get some lunch, and then I'm gonna work out, and then I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna stream some mono white Death and Taxes. So the list that I'm going to be playing looks like this. So it's similar to what I've been playing previously, except it takes the greed a little bit further in that we're hedging more against fair decks than against unfair decks. So just a couple more closing thoughts on the humans deck. We were on the wrong side of variance for this league. I do think the humans deck is pretty powerful. It can do a lot of really good things. I have a lot of play and a lot of wiggle room, many decision points. But we got rough pairings this league, and there wasn't a lot we could do. So it is what it is. Say la vie. All right, so my name's Phil Gallagher. I run Thraben University, a site for legacy death and taxes, and I'm signing off for the moment. I'll probably be back in about an hour and a half. Feel free to follow me if you want a notification for when I go live again. And more generally, if you want to do something to support the stream, consider subscribing, doing a donation deck list, or doing something else to support me and improve my content. I'll see you all again in a little while, hopefully.